Hey, hey, hey. Happy Monday. It is Show Your Love Month. If you are excited about Valentine's Day or Galentine's Day, get excited. I am here with you, and we are going to talk about showing your love and talking about who you love. So if you're here live, put in the chat. When I say who do you love, put it in the chat. Tell me who you love today. Tell me their names. Mama, daddy, brother, sister, cousin, husband, boyfriend, fiance. Tell me who you love today. So again, if you are here today, tell me who you love. That's our topic. Who do you love? So let's get right to it. You all know I like to start off and start each week with a little motivation, a little money affirmation. And this week's money affirmation, which was in the chat and in the invitation, is I will show my love every day in every way. I will show my love every day in every way. So we're going to get right to it. Today I really want us to talk about a little bit about who do you love and how do you show them love through your finances? What are some things that you do through finances that represent your love for those in your love circle? Is it we got Galentine's Day when you hang with your girls. We got Valentine's Day when you hang with your significant other, your husband, fiance, your boyfriend. You with them. You show love to your family on Valentine's Day. Hopefully you show them love on Valentine's Day as well. And you make sure everyone around you feels love. But one of the things that's so important is with our finances is how do you show your love? Happy Monday, Sherelle. Showing your family love. And so a lot of times, and I actually got a visual for y'all today. And so it's probably going to be a different topic for Valentine's Day than probably you're used to. And I don't often always talk about this, but I think it's so important that we really learn how important it is to show our love to our family, not just by buying them things and giving them things, but preparing for their futures and preparing for the life that they can have or will have and setting things up. A lot of times we don't think about our children in terms of all the way into their future, into retirement, right? We're thinking about today. We're making sure they go to the latest, they have decent clothing. They go to decent schools. And hopefully, if you're in a place you can do private schools or things like that to help your kids get into a different place and your grandkids, right? And then you're making sure that they're protected online, right? You're showing them love that way. You're making sure that you teach them finances. Now, if you're not teaching them finances, we can talk, but we should be teaching them finances, not just through our actions and what they see us doing, but by verbally talking to them and teaching them the ABCs of finance, if you will, for kids, and making sure they start to understand a lot of financial terms at their level, at the age that they can absorb the information, right? But something I always tell people is that when you are planning for your love, and then fiancés, husbands, wives, making sure that you've put things in place so that if one day your loved one does not have you, then you have ensured your love, right? And so some ways that we do it is by using the actual estate planning tools. And I'll go deep into it. I'm going to give you a high level and I'm going to go deep into a couple of them. Having the estate planning tools, a trust, right? And I did not say will on purpose, a trust. Making sure that you plan for retirement. Making sure that you plan for retirement so that your kids and grandkids don't have to pay for your retirement or be the one who helps fund it, right? Invest in your child and your grandchildren's education now. Today is the day because money compounds over time. And you can go back a few videos and watch the video on compound interest or rule of 72 and understand how starting now is the most important, right? Buying a home with enough space for your family to be comfortable. That doesn't mean that you have to have a big mansion. You can have a really comfortable townhouse or a really comfortable condo, but making sure that you have enough space. Or even, for my city dwellers, you have a really rocking apartment. It's not always as um, accessible to own in certain metropolitan areas, but making sure that it's comfortable for you and it's clean, right? Having an emergency fund, having health insurance, either through work or either through going through the actual marketplace to get health insurance through ACA or through Obamacare, making sure you have that health insurance, because having that in place shows your love financially, because you're not going to become a financial burden if something happens with your health. And getting life insurance, because you don't want to be a financial burden in life or in death to your family, right? And I'm going to go deep on a couple of these. So the one I want to go a little bit deeper on is having a family trust, or having a trust or creating a family trust. I chose that one because that's the way you can show your love for your family for generations to come. I'll give you an example. One of the things that the Rockefellers did with their family trust is they set it up to where anyone in the family, if they wanted to start businesses, do investments, or anything like that, then they would write a business proposal to the trustees of the trust, to the managers of the trust. It would get approved. The trust would then give that family member a loan. They would take the loan, go do the business deal or the investment or what have you. They would pay back the trust what they borrowed with interest to obviously keep the trust going, but it allowed them to set up a system where they never had to necessarily go to the bank to borrow money, because they had their own money. And then they funded the trust with life insurance, because everyone in the family that was eligible to borrow from the trust also had a life insurance policy that benefited from the life insurance of that person when they passed away. So now you got a system for generational wealth for centuries, because now you don't have to ever go to the bank to borrow money, and you have things in place where you can start businesses. You can, if it's going to college, you can get education, you can do everything you need, and you can set that up in a family trust. Now, trust isn't something you want to set up willy-nilly. You want to connect with a professional to do it. There are lots of lawyers and different companies that will do it for you, that are certified to do these things. My company also does it. But I say that because a trust is probably one of the most important financial vehicles and overlooked financial vehicles, because it helps you to protect your assets and to transfer your assets in a private way. I hear people talk about all the time getting a will. A will is cool. A will is nice. Actually, if you have a trust, most trusts tie to a will or a pour over will to make sure things stay connected. But just having a will is not enough. If you own property, just having a will is not enough. Most wills, what they are, is an invitation to probate court. And what that means is that your family would have to pay 5, 10, 15% the cost of probate in whatever state you are in before they receive any funds, in order to get access to your funds. And then once you go to court, then all your bills get paid, and then they pay out to the family based on what your will said. And so your will may or may not be done. With a trust, of course, your bills still get paid, but your family doesn't have to come up with the burden of a probate cost court. And think about it. If your family member only had $100,000 in assets, if it was 10%, that means your family has to come up with $10,000 just to go to court to see how much money will get distributed back to them. A lot of families lose their wealth through this process because people don't have $10,000. Now, the other one is making sure you buy enough home that you can live in comfortably. One of the things that a lot of us have done or I've seen or we've experienced is we go out and maybe we buy the biggest house, the McMansion, and there's nothing wrong with a McMansion. But if you bought a McMansion and it stretched your budget all the way thin, and now you can live there, but your money is really tight, or what they call you're probably a little house poor. You get a big, amazing house, but you really can't afford too much more because everything's going into a house. Houses cost money. Things happen. You have all these types of things that are out of your control. So you want to make sure you buy a house that's comfortable for everyone to live in, but also very comfortable for your budget, so that you're not necessarily having to go out and get another, another job or another income just to maintain it, right? And then we talk about emergency funds all the time. How much should I have in my emergency fund, Saran? Go ahead and ask me the question. 3 to 6 months of income or expenses. You can choose. Expenses is usually a little bit less than income because we don't all spend all of our income every month. But you want to have this emergency fund. Why? Because things happen. You lose jobs change, things shift. Life changes. You want to have this emergency fund. And you're like, well, how will I get that? You might do the math and be like, oh my goodness, I need $15,000. You start $1 at a time, or $50 or $100. What you do it consistently. You may not be able to drop 15,000 in it at one time, but you start where you are. If you can manage a little bit, you can manage a lot. It's a process, right? The other thing is having health insurance. We don't realize how expensive health insurance is until we have to pay for it. And so the idea is go and get the health insurance, because even if you have to pay a little bit to have it, if you go through the marketplace or the it's called ACA, Affordable Care Act, Obamacare, whatever you're calling it these days, or whatever they call it in your state. We call it the marketplace here in Maryland. Making sure that you get a plan through them if you don't already have medical insurance through your job. Because paying for the medical insurance, while it may be a little expensive, it's more expensive to pay for the medical care, right? And then last, not least, but making sure you have life insurance with living benefits. And what I mean by that is this is the type of life insurance you do not have to die to use, and you can make sure that you are taken care of while you're living. If you have medical challenges, like the doctor tells you have less than 12 months to live, you can go get your bucket list money right out of your life insurance policy. If the doctor says you can't do the activities of daily living, bathing, eating, toilet, and transferring on your own, and you need assistance, a properly structured life insurance policy will pay you money to take care of your life. And that could be the difference between having a caregiver and not having a caregiver, right? It'll pay for things like heart attack, cancer, stroke, Lou Gehrig's disease, Alzheimer's, things like that, things that we can't predict that may happen in our lives while you're living, so you don't have to be without. And then it'll pay for things like critical injury. If you have a car accident or something and you have traumatic brain injury, it will take care of you. These are the things that happen while you're living. And oh, by the way, if you have one with cash value, that's a whole nother ball game and a whole nother video of powerful things that you can do to change your life now and not later financially, as far as building the business, investing, and things like that. Now, you also want to invest in your children's education, and we talked about that a little bit, but making sure that you have a plan for how you want them to be educated. And I promised y'all I was going to show y'all a little picture. So I'm going to show you something. And this ties back to the life insurance too. And so most people know it as something that pays if something happens to you and you're no longer here. But what I want to do is I want to show you something really quickly, because this is, okay, don't show this. Because this is something that allows you, okay, it's not going to let me show it. But I want to talk to you a little bit about how it matters that you can take care of your family now. When we think about our kids, we think about our children, and we think about your children's world. I want to make sure that I can show you. Okay, here it is. Here's my video. Here's my picture. So when you think about your children and you think about their world, our children have one little world, and we are at the center of it, right? Our children have they have their parents. That's their world. They have their school or their friends. That's a part of their world. And they have their home and their neighborhood. All those things are what's important in their world, right? And what happens when a child loses a parent through death or through severe illness is all these things can go away from them at one time if there aren't any type of provisions made to protect them. So let's say one parent has a severe illness and they can no longer work and earn income. They've exhausted all their short-term disability and long-term disability. They've used all their paid leave. Their insurance is paid as much as they can. You still can't work 9 to 12 months later. What happens to where you live if you can't financially support it? If you lose one of your incomes, potentially two, because if we have one sick parent, the other parent is probably taking care of the other one and the kids. What happens to your kids' schooling? Do they continue? Are they able to continue to attend those schools, or do they have to change schools because maybe you lost a house and you had to move, whether it's a house or an apartment? If you're renting, it doesn't matter how you pay for where you live. If you pay a mortgage or you pay rent, if you stop paying it, you could stop living there involuntarily, right? But then they end up losing all three. They lose their parent, they lose their home, and they lose their school. And what I teach people is to protect that, especially for our little ones, our children and our grandchildren, making sure that they can be safe and insulated, right? And so with that, I wanted to share this visual because I post it sometimes, but I know I haven't talked about it directly. And this is one of the ways we can ensure our love, right? And making sure that we also think about it, our married couples and fiancés, engaged couples, and long-term boyfriends and girlfriends, and you've been together long enough to be married. And in some states, they make you be called, what is it called? Common law marriage. They make you be common law married. I think Texas, after you live together for like maybe a year or two, you're just automatically considered married based on their law, not like hearsay, right? But making sure you have that protection. We hear so many stories of newlyweds or almost married folks where one of the people passes away unexpectedly or something happens. This is how we ensure our love, by protecting them. We show our love by making provisions for our family members that we don't know need to happen, right? And that's one of the things I wanted to stress today in my video this week, is really thinking about that forward plan of how do you make sure that when you're not here 5 years from now, that your family still knows how much you love them by the provisions you put in place for them and for their future, right? And today I actually heard a beautiful story of a young lady who, a young couple, they were unexpected. They didn't think anything. One of my colleagues was worked with them, made sure they had, a policy in place. And 2-3 years later, out of nowhere, the husband contracted colon cancer. They weren't expecting it. They forgot they had the policy. Were in dire straits by the time they remembered they had the policy, but was able to take out a huge amount of money to take care of their lives and change their lives. And then to fast forward, the husband still ended up passing away a couple years later and still was able to then get a death benefit to protect and take care of their family. So now the wife and the two boys don't have any financial worries because everything had been taken care of, because they took the time to ensure that love would live on, right? And I have one other colleague who did the same thing. Her ex-husband took out a policy because he wanted to make sure if anything happened to him, his daughter would be okay. Well, he passed away right when his daughter turned 18, and the policy paid out the daughter enough money to pay for college in cash, to be able to make sure she had a car and a house after he was gone. And so she did not, while she misses her father, and those of us who've lost parents, we miss them forever. But her father left her a legacy of love by saying, hey, I got you, even beyond the grave. And so that's why I wanted to kind of come on. And it's a different take on Valentine's Day, but really saying, take care of your love in a different kind of way. It's nice to buy roses and candy and all kinds of niceties and high-end bags. I like high-end bags. I mean, you can drop one off at my house. I already got a policy. But high-end bags, whatever, all the things that we do in Valentine's Day and dinner and things like that, get your loved ones, I promise you, get your loved one a life insurance policy that you could pay $100 to $150, make them the beneficiary, and give that to them for Valentine's Day. And I bet you they'll appreciate you and they'll see you much differently, because they'll say, you know what, you don't just love me now, you love me forever, and you love me in the future before I even know I needed this love, right? So again, this week's money affirmation is, I will show my love every day in every way. And again, show your love every day in every way, no matter what. But I wanted to drop that information on you this Monday, this Valentine's Eve. And make sure you know that there's so many ways to show your love that can be so long stretching that it can really make a difference in not just your life, but in generations to come. So just quickly, some ways to do it. Invest in education, create a family trust or a joint trust. Buy a home that's comfortable, not doesn't have to be too big, but buy a home that's comfortable. Have an emergency fund, get health insurance, get life insurance. Show your love. Again, peace, love, and light. Make sure you get your money right. I'll talk to you guys later. See you next Monday.